Hello and welcome to Online PTE. My name is Alistair and this lesson is going to be on Module 1 Speaking and Task 1, which is Read Aloud. So have you got your pen and paper ready? Have you downloaded your worksheets? If so, let's get started. So Read Aloud. So with all the speaking you are assessed on enabling skills, and those enabling skills, and some of you might be aware of those, are something that PTE mentioned to try and give you, or to give you feedback on your speaking. They are oral fluency and pronunciation, and grammar and vocabulary. Now for Read Aloud, the grammar and vocabulary is given you. You can see the text. You have 40 seconds to look at the text just to get the overall meaning, the overall idea of the words, and then you've got 40 seconds to speak. And that's plenty of time. There's absolutely no need to rush. But as I say, for Read Aloud, the grammar and vocabulary are already in place. You don't need to worry about those. What you are thinking on are the two most important parts of your speaking, which are oral fluency and pronunciation. So we talk also about the basics of speech. And they are pronunciation, emphasis or stress, intonation, pace or speed of your speech, and for Read Aloud, pauses, which is a really important part of Read Aloud. Volume and projection are also important. And you don't need to shout when you take the PTE test. A nice strong voice is all that you need, nice and clear, and practice at home. Sit down 3 meters away from your phone, put your phone at the level of a screen, put it on voice record and see if your voice picks up what you're saying over a distance of about 3 meters. If it does, then your voice is absolutely fine. The volume and projection of your voice will be good for Read Aloud and the other parts of speaking. So basics of speech, and we're going to think about each one of these as we work our way through 6 Read Aloud passages. Pronunciation, the sounds that you make, particularly the endings of words you can think about. Emphasis and stress, so words or sounds that you emphasize just to give them a little bit more meaning or importance. Intonation is how your voice varies from high to low. It's a bit like the singing of the English language, and we use intonation to express meaning, we use intonation to express interest, and if you apply energy to your Read Aloud, you'll start to get good intonation in your speech. Yeah? So really try and think about good energy over the next 5 or 6 minutes. Pace and speed is important. Don't rush what you say. As I said, 40 seconds is plenty of time in order to get all of those Read Aloud passages out. And vary the pace of your speech from control to slow. And slowing down means you emphasize certain words. And then back to control. Never make it quicker than that. I always recommend to students that you think about these two together, emphasis and stress. So at the start of each sentence, slightly more emphasis, and slightly more higher intonation at the start of the sentences. That gets you thinking about those parts of your speech. Okay? All right, so I'll get you to turn to your worksheet, and on your worksheet you'll see 6 passages, A through to F, and you're going to practice reading those aloud in your own time. Now for the first one, you have 40 seconds, as I said. You have 40 seconds to think about looking at the text, getting the general context and meaning of the passage. Don't spend too much time looking at unknown words. If you do, you'll start to become anxious, and that will affect the majority of the words which you do know. So the 1 or 2 words you're not sure about, you're just going to have a go at them, but looking at them and getting anxious about them will not help the whole process. So for the first passage, which starts off, history rubs shoulders and often overlaps with many other areas of research, I want you to think about the pronunciation of certain of the endings of words. Does the word have an S at the end of it? Does it have a consonant sound, a T or a D sound? Does it have a vowel, more softer ending? So think about pronunciation of the endings of words. All right, I'm just going to get you to look at that first piece of text, A. As I say, in the test, you have 40 seconds, which is plenty of time to look at that passage. I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, go, and you're going to read out text A in your own time. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, pause the video. How did you go with text A? You're thinking about pronunciation of certain sounds, particularly at the endings of words. So there's quite a few S's, even in that first sentence, about 6 or 7. So did we hear the S? Did you think about that? Don't stress it too much, but if you stress it too much, you'll put in an extra syllable, and that's not what you're looking for. So if you're oral fluency, you're looking for to combine that with your pronunciation of the endings of words. Okay, now for text B, I want you to think about emphasizing or stressing certain sounds or words. And remember what I said, think about the starts of words, starts of sentences, and putting a slightly higher emphasis on the beginning of a sentence. So, pause the video. So, how did you go with that text B, where you're thinking about emphasizing and stressing certain sounds, particularly at the start of the sentence? So with C, I'm going to read out C, and I want you to think about the intonation of my speech. And you're trying to emulate native speakers, so focus particularly on the intonation, how our voice, or my voice rather, goes up and down to express meaning. I'm just going to look at it for a couple of seconds. Okay. Before the time of Alexander the Great, the only Eastern people who could be compared with the Greeks in the fields of science and philosophy were from the Indian subcontinent. However, because so little is known about Indian chronology, it is difficult to tell how much of their science was original and how much was the result of Greek influence. And I started to use my hands a little bit to actually see quite a few students in practice start to use their hands, which expresses meaning. If you want to do that, then feel free. Okay, so have a go at C. And how did you go? Good? All right, now D, we're going to get you to think about the pace or speed of your speech. So you're going to vary it according to where you are in the passage. And remember, controlled to slow to control, but never rushed. All right? So D starts with while far fewer people these days. All right? When you're ready, read D. Off you go. How did you go? Yeah. Did you vary your pace? Did you keep the volume going, which is important as well? Make sure the volume goes to the end of the sentence. Really important. And in D, there's some tricky Words definitive, commemorative. Did you get those out? Don't over worry about them, because as I say, focusing on tricky words may affect the words that you are able to speak without too much difficulty. Okay, and finally for E, this time I want you to think about pausing. So I say to students, I want you to punctuate your speech as you would do in your writing. So you use commas and full stops in your writing. Well, that's what these passages also do. So when you see a comma, just a very slight pause. When you see a full stop, a longer pause. Now E has 1, 2, 3 sentences. So after the word production, and after the second time the word production, you should be pausing, take a slight breath, and then into the next sentence, thinking about emphasis and intonation. So E starts with in the second quarter of the 19th century. All right, and when you're ready, go. Okay, how did you go with that? All right, so pronunciation, emphasis or stress, intonation, pace or speed, and finally pauses. These are all important for Read Aloud. And remember, as I said before, grammar and vocabulary are already given you, so it's the oral fluency and pronunciation that you're trying to get your enabling skills as high as possible. You've got one more, which starts off with in the Middle Ages. I'll read that one out as well, and I'm going to try and think of all of those things coming together in this last passage. Okay, so quick look at the text. All right, in the Middle Ages, the design and use of flags were considered a means of identifying social status. Flags were, therefore, the symbols not of nations, but of the nobility. The design of each flag resembled the devices on the noble's coat of arms, and the size of the flag was an indication of how high the owner stood in the nobility. Okay? All right, when you're ready, last one, off you go. How did you go? All right, so you've now done 6 passages, and what I always ask students to think about when they've come to the end of 6 Read Aloud, what part of their speech do they really need to think about? And if you think about one of these parts of your speech, it gets you to think about all of your speech. But it might be intonation you want to work on. And intonation, by the way, the more you listen to native speakers, either your teachers, newsreaders, podcasts, all these mediums which are available to you, the more you listen to intonation, it will help your own speech. Okay, so remember, persistency, perseverance, consistency are really important. Practice, practice, practice. Keep that practice going for your speaking. Make sure you keep up with your course outline, submit your homework on time, and your teachers are waiting for you. Bye for now.